Welcome back to the Butler Beat. I'm Shelby Sebring. Today, Butler students will have the opportunity to vote for their favorite SGA presidential candidates. There are 4 candidates for SGA president. Joining me today are 2 of them, Kelsa Reynolds and Josh Grant. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Good. So why did you guys choose to run for SGA president?
I currently serve as the SGA Vice President of Operations, so at the end of my term I'll have a full year of experience as an executive officer for SGA, and I feel as if I've been given an insight look on all 6 boards that make up SGA, and I feel like I can bring the best improvements to overall campus life by becoming SGA President.
Very nice. How about you, Josh?
Even though I'm a chemistry major, I've always been interested in the political system, in SGA in particular. As a freshman, I served in REACH, and I was also an SGA assemblyman, I guess is how you would phrase it. And I really enjoyed it, so I'd really like to serve as SGA president.
And what characteristics do you guys have that you think would make you a winning candidate?
Well, like I said, I currently have the experience as a vice president and an executive officer, so definitely bringing experience to the campaign, but also I feel as if I'm organized and dependable, and most importantly, I feel like I'm approachable. If there's a campus concern or need, I feel like the student body should feel that they can approach me in any situation.
How about you, Josh?
I'm a very good listener. I also want to make sure that I represent all students, so I've been visiting a lot of smaller organizations to make sure their voices are heard. I'm also very accessible because I just don't sleep. I'm an insomniac, so basically anytime someone wanted to talk to me about anything, I'd be open to talk to them.
So what kind of things are you guys involved in on campus?
Besides SGA, I am a student orientation coordinator for this upcoming year's orientation week. In the past, I've been a student orientation guide, so I'm taking a new role with orientation week, as well as I'm an active member within Timmy Global Health. I've actually traveled to Guatemala with the Butler Foundation, as well as I'm a active member of the Dog Pound.
How about you?
Last year I was involved in REACH and I was in SGA Assembly. This year I kind of decided to take things a little slower, so I rushed a house this year. I'm a pledge at Sigma Chi.
Okay. So you guys both are heavily involved around campus. How are you planning on balancing your current duties with a potential presidential duty?
I think it's very important to set priorities, and if you are given the title of the student body president, I think that should become one of your main priorities. But as well as it's all about having a support team, and with not only being selected as the SGA president, you'll also have 6 wonderful vice presidents, as well as an advisor within the Pulse office, a parliamentarian. So I think it's very important to not only set self-priorities and make sure that you fulfill all the duties as an SGA president, but also realize that you have a support team, and when you need help, approach those people and ask for help.
How about you?
It wouldn't necessarily be a big adjustment for me because, like I said earlier, I just don't sleep. I get about 3 hours a night, so it would be. I think I'd be able to handle it pretty well. I have had enough experience in SGA where I think that I'd know exactly how to run things, and like I said, I'd be able to meet with everyone whenever they needed to talk to me.
Now, I know that the Collegian reported on there being a lot of controversy over this year's current budget. Are you guys planning on changing the budget? What do you guys think about that for next year if you were selected?
We'll definitely have, as a current executive officer, but then also if elected as president, we'll definitely have a voice in the budget. But with the current president, Al Carroll's campaign from last year, he has decided that we will set the budget almost a few months in advance, whereas in the past we've set it at the executive retreat over the summer. This year we're going to do it in April, and we're definitely going to have a voice, but the most important thing is we will be able to give our input, but the overall decision comes down to SGA Assembly when they'll be able to have the vote to whether or not they want the money in a different board, in a different event. So yes, we'll have a vote and we'll have a say-so, but it'll come down to the final approval in SGA Assembly.
Okay.
The only thing I would really change is the grant process. I'd like to make them simpler and easier to receive. Some of the smaller organizations have a hard time getting the money they need for events because they don't really understand the grant process, or they don't get the amount of money that they really need to throw an event that people will actually attend. So one of the things that I would really like to do is if an event is under a certain dollar amount, SGA would just pay for the whole thing. And also for grants in general, I think we got to definitely speak to Assembly that first day and make sure everyone understands how grants are awarded.
Okay. From your platform, Josh, it says, "My aim is to diffuse the unique atmosphere and limitless opportunities that define Butler University to all students, staff, and members of the surrounding community, thereby evaluating the institution to new and promising heights." How are you planning to improve Butler's campus?
Well, that's basically just a lot of fancy words for my
Yes.
5 campaign points.
Okay, go for them.
Basically, I just want to bring the whole campus together a little bit closer, and I want to do that through promoting and celebrating diversity, developing a stronger bond within the Butler community, teaching, or not necessarily teaching, spreading the core Butler values to all undergraduates, mainly the Butler way, and also inspiring students to engage themselves in SGA. The other point goes along with developing a stronger bond. It's basically the same thing. So what I want to do is I want to have big events in which everyone can kind of intermingle, kind of like spring sports.
Okay.
Even though it's a friendly competition between fraternities and independents, I think that really builds a stronger bond between people. I also want to have bigger charity events because everyone's focused on the same thing, where we just want to raise some money for some people and have fun while we do it.
Yeah.
And I think that really brings people together.
I agree with that. How about you, Kelsa? From your platform, it says, "As part of my presidential initiative, I want to highlight and promote everything we as students can take advantage of at Butler." So how do you plan to promote student activities on Butler's campus?
I think it's all about utilizing the resources that we currently have, as well as improving the resources that we have. We have a great social media outlet, so I would strongly encourage people to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, whereas we're not only promoting SGA events, but we can also promote the smaller organizations' events on campus, so that hopefully everyone on campus has the opportunity to join those and to take part in those. But then also utilizing the SGA website, utilizing the weekend calendar that's put out by the Pulse office, and then on my.butler.edu there's also a campus-wide event calendar that students can access to find out what's going on in the Riley room, the Johnson room, on Schwitzer Lawn. So again, it's all about utilizing the current resources that we have, but also promoting and advocating for multiple boards to enhance the current resources that we have.
Okay, very nice. Josh, another question. The collegiate staff asked you how you plan to address the divide between Greeks and independents on campus, and your response was to allocate more funds for independent council, allowing it to host more events. So where will this money come from that you're trying to allocate?
Well, obviously, we have to kind of change the budget around, make sure certain organizations get more money. I just wanted to make sure independent council gets the money they need to throw their events, because I don't want them to have to host some events and no one show up, because that'd be horrible. That's actually happened to me before when I hosted an event, and it was one of the worst experiences ever. And if we want to strengthen independent council, you can't have little tiny events like that that don't bring anybody around.
So how do you plan to help promote those events that people aren't going to?
I want to make sure that SGA completely backs independent council in this respect. I'd like to meet with the president of independent council every week, at least once a week, and talk to them about what they want to do, what events they want to have. The president for next year actually lives 2 doors down from me in Resco, so I've gotten to know her pretty well.
And Kelsa, you said you would give interfraternity council a bigger voice through SGA. Can you kind of elaborate on this?
I think it's really important that any student organization whether it's that specific one or smaller ones, residence halls, organizations, when they select their representative to come to SGA Assembly, they're aware of that student's responsibilities and roles in promoting and advocating not only SGA events, but at the end of our weekly assembly meetings, we give an opportunity for anyone in assembly to stand up and make announcements. So I think it's very important that representatives know their roles, know their responsibilities, to take it back to their constituents within their organization and let everyone know whether we're voting on an issue, whether it's an event on campus, just really helping with the system of communication, which I think is a strong and reliable source on campus coming from SGA Assembly. And in my platform, I really think the Operations Board, which I currently am Vice President of, can make a strong impact on that in advocating for roles and responsibilities of their representatives to be better improved.
Very nice. Josh, you were asked also how you plan to address the issues of communication through SGA, and your response was to give the freshman representatives a louder voice. How do you plan to do this?
It wasn't necessarily a louder voice, it was more to just get them to speak in general. Because when I was a freshman and I was representing college Republicans, I realized that the only people who were speaking were really sophomores and upperclassmen in SGA Assembly. None of the freshmen were speaking. I think it was because we were all pretty nervous to be there. We were given some responsibility and we just didn't want to change anything up. We didn't want to cause a stir. We wanted to just kind of sit there and get through the meeting and have a good time, because Al was the parliamentarian and he was really funny. But what I want to do is at that first meeting, I want to make sure freshmen understand their role, understand that they need to communicate with their organization and the SGA Assembly. And I want them to know that it's a responsibility that they should take seriously.
Okay. And then Kelsa, how can SGA get more students involved in campus?
I think it's kind of feeding off of what Josh has previously said in the previous question. I think it's really important to reach out to the incoming students and really advocate for them to become involved early on. I got involved with SGA my freshman year, as well as the Timmy Global Health Foundation, as well as the Dog Pound, Student Orientation Guide. So I think it's important that students realize that there's so many opportunities at Butler, and if SGA can play a part in making sure that students are aware of what they can get involved in early on, I think more students will become involved.
Well, thank you for joining us today, guys. Voting starts this morning at 9 a.m. and will go until 9 p.m. tonight. To vote online, go to www.butler.edu/SGA. Thank you for joining us today on the Butler Beat. I'm Shelby Sebring.